So, fruit comes into the distillery and it's coming in on that day of ripeness, not when we want it, and then we're hand grading every single piece. So for example, with our raspberries, we have 5 kilo trays and you walk your fingers through, removing every single stalk, every leaf, every floor berry. Last year we worked with 16 tons of raspberries in 3 weeks with an 8-week-old baby under the tree. And I worked out we touched 3 million berries in 3 weeks. And we're crushing that fruit into fermenters, we're using the whole fruit, so we're getting all of those essential oils. And long, slow, wild fermentations, so at a minimum about 9 days, but with very tannic fruits that suppress fermentation. We're looking, last year the longest was 18.5 weeks for some of the berry pears to get to 4% alcohol.
Wow.
And then we're triple distilling, so fruit gets pumped into the still, we're distilling once, all of that aroma and alcohol rises as steam, comes out of the still, and this low wines, completely renewably powered here. And we're really unusual in that we're redistilling that again. And this is amplifying the strength of those low wines, so again, we redistill it and collect everything again. And then that final third distillation, we're running incredibly slowly, kind of 7 or 8 litres an hour running off the still. But over 9 hours, because every flavour has a different boiling point, you can stand here and taste through the entire spectrum of ground fruit. So the floral notes, or the skin of that apple, or the almond of those seeds, or that lemon element hidden in there. And we can have in our 180 litre still the equivalent of up to 3,000 kilos of fruit at that point. And you can ruin it in about 20 seconds. So everything is collected in small bottles well into the heart. So the very volatile heads we don't want. We want to keep all of that expression in the heart. And then we collect in small bottles again into those tails. In every distillation you're sitting down and diluting and nosing and tasting and nosing and tasting. So rather than recycling these negative parts and keeping over 90% of the alcohol like most producers would, we only keep this heart section. You know, for me it's this very qualitative way of working where you want that section which expresses all of that beauty of that fruit and captures that absolute moment. And that means on average we're only keeping between 40 and 45% of that alcohol. Worst yield last year was a quince run and we kept 36% of that alcohol, and all the rest of it's very low. Because, you know, doing this for myself for so many years, we found that recycling of these elements that's typically done is just purely yield driven. You know, it damages quality, and actually if you want something which is expressive of that fruit you're working with, there are no shortcuts. You know, and this means that our eaux are taking up to 45 kilos of fruit for 1 litre, and that's at diluted strength. So, you know, our raspberries, when we're at diluted strength, we're about 33 kilos to 1 litre, but actually at distillation strength, it's over 60 kilos. So you're looking at 1.6% of the starting volume. So these things are so much closer to the way people traditionally worked in places like Grass, where they were looking to extract these absolute essences and perfumes. And the amazing thing with that is when you have a kilogram of fruit in 25 millilitres or 1.5 kilos, you start elevating all these other flavours which are normally imperceptible in that fruit because they're not at a high enough concentration. So with those raspberries where you have 1,000 seeds in your 25ml measure, suddenly you can taste almost these elements of the stem, and you can smell these crushed leaves, and you can smell that rose water in there. And all of these things are hidden in that fruit. You know, we haven't added anything, it's just that fruit and the yeast that's come in on it. And yet by working in this very precise and careful way, you have something that actually extends that fruit. And it almost smells like you're standing in the landscape where it grows, amongst those plants. And you smell, for me they are the most terroir-driven spirits because they're expressive of this 50-mile radius we source within. and it means that you have something that smells like your eyebrow. You know, it's a fascinating thing.